So Yonatan was saying that Korach's claim is something that he doesn't see as particularly sophisticated and something that would that he would be fazed by. Yonatan, I think you were saying earlier this week that if you would have learned the same things that Korach learned at that time, you would have come to the conclusion that Moshe Rabbeinu was right. Korach was saying, as we learned earlier this week,
and change all Jewish history.
And change all history. He was saying that there doesn't need to be revelation in the world. He was saying the divine source, the physical, is good enough. The holiness of the Jewish people is good enough. They don't need to have a Moshe Rabbeinu to reveal godliness to them. The divine source is higher. The divine source of tzimtzum, of contraction, is higher than revelation. And you and others were asking, what is the relevance to us when we don't have the same kind of that perspective doesn't seem relevant to us.
It's not just that it doesn't seem relevant; it just seems obvious that you can't have it seem. The only purpose of a tzimtzum is to conceal something, so there has to be a concealment behind the first tzimtzum. It has to be, otherwise it wouldn't be a tzimtzum.
Well, there has to be revelation before tzimtzum. You're saying
there must be revelation before tzimtzum.
So they created tzimtzum first. They created darkness first, and then revealed the light. Or they created light.
First of all, who is they?
Thank you. Okay.
White man.
Forgive me.
Before the tzimtzum, there is a revelation of godliness. The Arizal, the Eitz Chaim writes, "Betchil ha'er and sof malkom tzis." And originally, the infinite light of Hashem filled all of existence. And then the tzimtzum came. I just wanted to point out what Rabbi Reber was asking yesterday. It sounds like that the infinite light of Hashem is just there, but it's not just there. Hashem decides it to be there, and we said that the tzimtzum is what causes there to be a light that's relevant to creation. Isn't it all relevant to creation? Hashem made the original light also for creation, and it actually mentions this point that Bereishis b'shel yishosh negreshis, when we say that God made the world for the Jewish people, Chassidus explains it's not just the world is made for the Jewish people. Even the highest revelations of godliness, and even the revelations which are pre-tzimtzum, are also for the sake of the Jewish people. They're also for God's purpose. They're not just there.
So I was also pointing out that all of those descriptions are all creations.
Oh, all the things we're learning about are things that God made.
All creation from
including our Ensof.
Including our Ensof. Including the infinite light of Hashem, which is a revelation of Him. There's Him and His wondrousness. And even His wondrousness is also something that He wills to be there. It's not naturally there. Unlike the light of the sun, which light of the sun, once there's the sun, there's going to be a light of the sun because it's the sun doesn't decide. It just comes out of the sun. On the other hand, Hashem, every revelation is by His will. So how are we dividing some parts of the revelation before the tzimtzum, some after the tzimtzum? Some has a relevance relevance to God's purpose. It's all for God's purpose. So the short answer is that standing in the circumstances of before the tzimtzum, there is an experience before the tzimtzum is that there's nothing besides Hashem. The possibility of creation is unthinkable. There's no room that from this light there could emerge a separate entity. It's from the perspective before the tzimtzum, all there is Him. There can't be anything separate. So it doesn't mean that that revelation itself is not for the purpose of creation. It is, but in that realm, in that truth of the way things are, higher than the tzimtzum, there is no possibility for creation. It can't be a world. So it's a truth that's higher than multiplicity, higher than the possibility of multiplicity, higher than the possibility. So is it also for creation? Yeah, but it's not. It's not even a source of creation. It's not even a source for creation. Even though creation emerges from it eventually through the tzimtzum, but there's nothing in there that there's all it is a window to Hashem's truth. There's nothing else is there except for being a window to Hashem's truth. So then comes the tzimtzum, and the tzimtzum causes there to be a reality that can eventually, through a whole process of many other tzimtzumim, there could be something other. There could be something other. Now, of course, the truth is that tzimtzum is not real, and nothing besides Hashem. But the tzimtzum produces a reality where you feel there could be something other. And Korach, he was saying that, okay, the goal is the tzimtzum itself. How could the goal be the tzimtzum itself? Korach wasn't saying that the goal is that there should be. Korach was saying that the divine source of tzimtzum is higher than the divine source of revelation. In order to be able to make a tzimtzum, just like in ourselves, the power to make a parable is higher than the power to convey an idea, the power to bring it down. In order to understand, in order to bring an idea down and to dress it, you have to be able to undress it. You have to be able to see it in its pristine source to be able to bring it down. In order to address something, you have to be able to undress it. Does that make sense? In order to be able to, the more abstract you're able to understand the idea, the more you're able to make it tangible.
If you were going to create the possibility of free choice, how else could you do it other than through concealment? If you did not conceal it, there'd be no possibility of free choice.
Right. There had to be concealment. But Korach's claim was that you don't need to have revelation. You just have the divine source of things is enough. Just because things have a higher divine source is good enough. And the idea of revealing it and making it revealing God's truth here is not important. So the agreement today was we're going to Farbreng a little bit. So on that note, Rabbi Khan was once asked, who was greater, the Rebbe or Moshe Rabbeinu? And there was another chassid, Chaim Marazav, who answered the question this way. He says, it's only the Rebbe that allows me to understand the real value of Moshe Rabbeinu. How to know who Moshe Rabbeinu is without learning what Chassidus says about it? Rabbi answered tongue-in-cheek. He said, who's greater, the Rebbe or you? The Rebbe says to do something, and it's obvious you're going to do exactly what the Rebbe says. It's not so obvious. When Reb J.J. Hecht, oh Shalom, went to visit Israel, he didn't really want to go unless it was there was some mission of the Rebbe. He had some other reason to go. He wanted the Rebbe to send him there. My grandfather had a similar story. Rabbi Folgerman, whose yard was yesterday. The people in the shul bought him and my Babi Dan Gesund a ticket to Israel. He told the Rebbe he only wants to go if it's a shlichus. So the Rebbe gave him a shlichus, and then I think he felt bad about it that he whatever. But J.J. Hecht, getting back to J.J. Hecht, the Rebbe said you have to be careful the way you share things in Yerushalayim. Because in Yerushalayim, kulam chacham kulam vein, they're all wise and understanding. So the Rabbi J.J. Hecht said, that's the problem when it comes to Israel, when it comes to Yerushalayim. You know what the problem with you guys is? You're chacham and aveinim. You're too smart. You have to. So what Korach did was he rationalized things, and he didn't. When you're using your seichel, your mind, and you're not following Moshe Rabbeinu, there's all kinds of ways to look at things, and especially Korach said that the divine source of things is good enough. But Manis Friedman, he spoke last night. It was amazing. I thought he said something very powerful, which I think is very relevant. He didn't say these words, but in Tanya, what's the number one word in Tanya? Number one word in Tanya is mamish. That's also the number one word the Rebbe uses, mamish. What's mamish mean? Mamish means it's real. It's real, and it's here, and it's now. The difference between seichel and mamish is that seichel is a perspective, it's an idea, it's a philosophy. Mamish means that it's real, that it's here, that it's now. Korach.
Seichel, you can take it in all kinds of directions, depends on where your seichel is going.
Right. Seichel in fact says seichel is pliable. Right. Like in the end of Parshas Bereishis, God says, I'm going to destroy man because man is terrible, right? And at the end of Parshas Noach, God says, I'll never destroy man because, after all, man is born terrible. He's born terrible, so it's Rachmanis, how could I destroy man? So seichel is fungible. So the in case in point, we're sitting in this library over here, and the library being here raised they didn't. It's not so enjoyable to daven in the shul when part of it's a library, right? So some Jews were saying that they have zero tolerance for the changes in the shul. Why does the shul have to keep the library here? Why can't we just close it? Why can't we just close it? So I saw a letter of the Rebbe randomly. Rabbi Ruddle Olasholm said the words Igros Kodesh are numerical equivalent to Hashgacha Pratis. Igros Kodesh equals Hashgacha Pratis. So the letter I saw, the Rebbe. Oh, you tried to add it up?
I didn't, but I know Rabbi Gadol has his own way of doing it.
Oh, I know that. Okay, and so the Rebbe writes in this letter that it was a similar situation. They had to, we had to close it because of construction, but for whatever reason, they also had a reason to close their library. It doesn't say why, and the idea was let's close it temporarily. The Rebbe says you can't close it temporarily. Why not? Because it could be the day that it's closed, a person will come into the library, and they'll learn something of Chassidus. And that thing to learn Chassidus from the books in the library will inspire them to do inyanim chashuvim yuchadim, important and unique things, and therefore it can't be closed. Instead, the Rebbe says you should find a place to put it there. Certainly, you'll find a place to put it in one of the ulamas of the yeshiva, and that way it will be public, and that will be people know about it, and that way. But the idea is there has to be revelation of Hashem in the world. It can't be that it's put away. It can't be that it's left to be in its high and holy place. It has to be mamish, has to be revealed, has to be here. The Rebbe spoke about children saying psukim of Torah many times. And there was once a person who spoke openly against this practice of saying psukim in Torah. I remember when I was a kid also, Massachusetts, there was a young rabbi who moved to town, and he thought like he's going to teach everybody about the Eibishter, and he said, they teach the kids in the school and Achet Mimim, my grandfather's school, to act like Nazis. They go Torah Tziva like their hands. Wow. So the Rebbe, a similar story happened years before, and this guy was speaking against children saying psukim, and the Rebbe said, how could it be that a Jew should be against a child saying a pasuk? How could it? It must be, the Rebbe said, his tefillin apostle. It has to be his tefillin apostle, because it cannot be that a Jew should be against this. So there's an idea. It's the honor of the words of Torah. Let's honor. It shouldn't be so out in the open like that. It shouldn't be so. But really, where it's coming from is a tefillin apostle. I was thinking, why the tefillin apostle? We went last week. Difference between Shema and tefillin says anyone who brings the karbanis without the nesachim, brings the sacrifices out the libations, is like saying, it's like someone who reads Shema and doesn't wear tefillin. And we learned that the karbonis are about elevating the world to kedusha, and the idea of the libations, which are poured in the altar and descended to the earth, they're about bringing godliness to the world. Shema also is about us appreciating Hashem's truth and looking beneath the veneer of things and seeing how everything is part of Hashem's truth. And tefillin is about bringing Hashem's truth into a physical parchment. And the straps of tefillin have to descend below your waist to bring kedusha to the world.
It seems that it's supposed to have revelation, but it's important for you to do the revelation. It's for us to actually do it, to bring the revelation into the world. Right. Create it hidden so we can reveal it.
Right. Ashabar Elokim Lasis Lasaki.
The sun is an automatic process. The sun comes from one side, goes from the other side. It's an automatic process.
Right. Ruach Elokim Mechavsnei Hamayim. It says that Hashem created the world with the spirit of Hashem hovering over the water. It says, what was the spirit? The spirit was the spirit of Mashiach. The spirit of Mashiach is the spirit in each of us that says, if you're doing something to bring revelation of Hashem in the world, then great, you're a reason for you to be here. If not, the Yitash Kadmach, and the mosquito comes before you. The whole reason we're here is to reveal Hashem in the world. Asher Baruch Kimasis. But it's possible to think that. Let's say this. Let's say two things. First thing, let's say, is that there was someone else who had a similar sentiment, speaking. I don't like speaking negatively, but somehow it's just the contrast of people who are against things that Rebbe said makes you see more sometimes the light in the words that Rebbe said, like the Greek philosophers you mentioned earlier this week, that the darkness is the light, whatever. Someone was saying that the reason the Vilna Gaon was opposed, in order to see the light, if the contrast with darkness. So, someone was saying basically that the reason the Vilna Gaon opposed the Alter Rebbe was not because of the Alter Rebbe, it was because of what would happen later on in our times. So he was against what the Rebbe would do. That's what this guy said. Now, obviously, the guy who was saying this was way off. Wasn't obviously he's very disrespectful. But Rabbi Yochanan said you can learn something from what he said as well. What came from what he said? The real reason that the Vilna Gaon was opposed to Alter Rebbe Stam is because there was no one knew what Chassidus was. They thought that people told the Vilna Gaon that Chassidus is against Hashem and against Torah. But Rabbi Yoel said this. He says, what's the idea of opposing Chassidus? What's this about? Chassidus is about revealing Hashem in the world. What's the idea of opposing Chassidus? Being against the revelation of Hashem in the world. Where is there the greatest revelation of Hashem? I mentioned before that the Alter Rebbe used the word mamish in Tanya, and the Rebbe uses the word mamish. But there's difference how the Rebbe uses it and the Alter Rebbe uses it. The Alter Rebbe uses the word mamish to tell us how Hashem's truth is in this physical world, how Hashem's truth is in the neshama. It's mamish, it's real. And the Rebbe speaks of mamish about these truths, and especially highlighting every single talk with take it from Yad Mamish. The Mashiach should come, really. I remember right after Gimel Tammuz, a lot of us, me included, decided that we have to express our emunah physically, and so I got a yarmulke which said the Rebbe promised, the Rebbe will fulfill, and that's why I wanted to wear my faith on my sleeve as because I wanted to identify with it. I wanted to whatever. That's how I was feeling. So some of my friends of mine were like, it's an insult. It's an insult. As if the Rebbe's not going to say the truth. He's what's the opposite of that? He's not emes. He's not true. But the truth is that I had a point. And why? Because what they were saying was, let's not even talk about that. Let's not even talk about that. Let's not even talk about that means that this is something that should remain higher. It should remain in some distant place. It shouldn't be here and now in the vernacular. And mamish means that it's something you could touch with your fingers, and this is the way it really is right now. And Mashiach is going to come right now, and it's happening right now. There was a line Rabbi Friedman said about two stories that happened to him. Is the second thing I want to say, which is a very good thing. I almost lost it, but I think I got it. He mentioned that Rabbi Friedman he's spoken in thousands of places for decades. And he said the most meaningful one was that when he went to Argentina, and it was a long flight, and the rabbi who picked him up from the airport told him, after he was so tired and not interested in doing anything, he told him, we're going to make a detour. There's a lady who lost her son in a car accident, and you're going to go speak to her first. He's like, what? He's so insulted that the guy didn't even ask him. And then they go to the hotel. They go to this woman, and she starts talking about her son. She get to speak to him, and she was like recluse after her son died for 6 months. She was just in her apartment. She didn't go anywhere. And he said she was like dead, and the room was like dead. And then she started talking about her son. Her son was so special, and so he says to her, wow, and you will be able to have him for 19 years. She was unimpressed. So he said to her, the problem is that you're experiencing a shock. What if God would have asked you 19 years ago if you were to take he has a special diamond to give to someone for 19 years only, would you have accepted it? And so she said, no, I wouldn't. And so Rabbi Friedman was shocked because he expected her to say yes, so he just retorted, so it's a good thing he didn't ask you. I guess it was, and so when she heard that, she started to cry, and all of a sudden the grief came out, and he said 20 minutes later she was alive again. It was the most amazing metamorphosis he's seen in 50 years of speaking. So, and he said he didn't really get the meaning of why she cried and why those words were meaningful to her. He said what really woke her up was the fact that she said no. When she said no, that I don't want to be the mother of this child, that made her totally realize I'm not acting like a mother. I'm not myself. I am not who I am meant to be. I've moved away from who I'm meant to be to become someone who's preoccupied with themselves. I'm supposed to be a caring, selfless. I'm about my son instead of becoming about myself. I'd rather not have this. So that itself, because of this, he said he didn't realize this till years later when other rabbi did the same thing on him, and he helped another couple who had a similar challenge. When that story happened later, he realized the meaning of the first story. What happened was that her saying no woke her up. Her saying no, I don't want to have this child, made her totally identify with who she really is. She got her mamish. She got her reality. This is who I really am. So what Korach gives us is this sense of mamish. The person who said that the Vilna Gaon was against the Alter Rebbe because of the Rebbe, if we were to say that the Vilna Gaon was not the Vilna Gaon, but let's say he was against the revelation of Hashem, let's say we were talking about not the Vilna Gaon, Chas V'Shalom, but a Misnagid who was against revelation. Where is it more revelation? Revelation in Tanya, or revelation in children having a pushka on their door and having Torah books in their room and making their room a miniature a room of Beis Hamikdash, Mikdash Me'at. That's a much more down to earth, tangible revelation. That's someone's against revelation. Is not a revelation in davening is one level of revelation. Revelation that in a way that it so the other part. So there's a Korach in us that could say, okay, this is just too. This is kid stuff. It's not meant to be like this. Not meant to be. And here we get to Reb Zev, and I want to tell you the other story. And Baruch Hashem, Reb Zev has heard this story from me twice in the last 3 months, and I want to tell it to you again because I just love this story. And I think if you heard the story again, your life would just be different, because mine would. Here's the story. The story is like this. The story is from Rabbi Reuben, from Albany's father, Rabbi. What's his first name? Okay, Rabbi Reuben said the following story. He said that, why is it at the end of Shema we say it's true and it's right and it's correct and it's wonderful and it's sweet and it's so many adjectives after Shema? What's the meaning of this? So here the following analogy. There was a wealthy man who was marrying off his daughter. He was a very miserly man. And he didn't want to share his wedding with everyone in town, but that would be very uncouth, because everyone makes a wedding in town and invites the whole town. So he just makes up this plan with his servant. He tells the servant, on the night of the wedding, I want you to come in the wedding hall and say, all the wedding food has been stolen. It's all stolen. And everyone will think that it's stolen, and then I'll be able to enjoy the wedding with my family. I don't want to share all the stuff I've got for the wedding with everybody else. So before the wedding, he buys the meats. Everyone sees he's buying the meats. Everyone's excited. There's going to be wow, we're going to have a great feast in this wedding. Amazing. And his servant and he have this agreement. Comes the chuppah. Everyone's now at the hall. And the servant walks into the wedding hall and he screams out to the wealthy man. He says, the wedding food has all been stolen. Robbers have come. And they've taken all the wedding food. And there's a little commotion, a little tumult, and people start to leave. And the owner, the wealthy man, the father of the bride, is thinking to himself, wow, my servant should win an Academy Award. What an amazing rendition of what I asked him to do. Amazing. But it literally bothered him a bit because it looked too real. So he called over his servant and said, tell me, between me and you, what really happened? He said the wedding food was really stolen. He said, yeah, I know you're supposed to say that because that's what we agreed you're going to say. But between me and you, just for a moment, just so I could have my own, just so I know myself, just between me, no one's listening. What happened to the wedding food? He said, the wedding food was really stolen. And it took 5 or 6 times of back and forth for him to actually get the wedding food was really stolen. And because this was part of the plan. And then when he finally realized that the wedding food was actually stolen, he fainted. So Rabbi Reuben said, the same is also with our davening. Why do we daven? We daven, our animal soul says to us before we begin davening, why are you davening? Who are you talking to? Are you really into this stuff? Is this really you? This is a holy thing, but it's not really for you. It's like Korach. It's holy. It's a divine source. It's holy, but it's not yours. It's not here. It's not you. So you tell your animal soul tells you, you're going to daven because everyone davens. You're not going to daven because you're going to daven. You're daven because everyone davens. But remember, it's not really your truth. It's just a truth that's not yours. So you get start davening because everyone's davening. And sometimes it happens that you get into it. You get really into it. And you come to Krishma and you say Shema, and you say you should love Hashem with all your heart, soul, and might, and you mean it, and you get into it. And the animal soul looks at you, and the animal soul says, what just happened here? Didn't we agree that this isn't really for you, and this is just something we're doing because all Jews do this, and it's not really... So it's not really you, right? This is we have this agreement. That Yetzer Hara is a real wealthy man, and he has this agreement with us that we should know this is not real. It's not real. But then we come and oh, it is real. It is real. And so the animal soul asks us after Shema, we had an agreement. What's going on? Is it really real? We say, emes. Okay, I know it's officially real, but I'm asking it's not really real for you. The Yartziv. Okay, it's real officially for you, and you're Jewish, and you're supposed to believe in it, and you do believe in it, but not right now, not right here. Yartziv, and Nochin, and Kayim, and Yoshev, and Emon. And when you see and we say that, the animal soul, the wealthy man faints. He faints. All the different ways we describe ourselves, and we relegate that we're our neshama to some higher sphere and not being ourselves by announcing and declaring, no, it's v'yatziv and nochin. We come back to our mamash. We come back to our reality. Come back to who we are. So today, tonight, tomorrow night, Gimel Tammuz, it's a time of mamash. It's the time of coming in touch with who we really are. Today, Mr. Hashem, everyone's going to write a letter to the Rebbe and send it to the oil. Those who are able to go to the oil, go to the oil. But the idea is, today is a day of mamash. Today is a day of my grandfather, Matal Lebanon Shalom. He tried to write a letter to the Rebbe one time. He stayed up all night and just was crying and crying and crying. And then his wife comes in the kitchen in the morning and she says to her, the Rebbe likes you, you write to the Rebbe. The reason it was so hard for him to write a letter to the Rebbe was because, writing a letter to the Rebbe is mamash. It's like, it's coming face to face with reality. And it makes you cry because it makes you realize, like, where am I? But it's not about crying. That's Korach. Korach is about, let's cry, let's be upset, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we coming face to face with the Rebbe, coming face to face with our neshama. What are we going to do? Where are we want things to happen here and now. One more story Rabbi Friedman said last night, and I'll stop with that. Rabbi Friedman said another ma'aseh was, I never heard this story before, that when Rebbe was 4 years old, so someone told the Rebbe, someone who apparently had gotten a little bit jaded and disconnected with his roots, he said to the Rebbe, a yarmulke is very hot. It makes you take it off. So the Rebbe said, you're not allowed to. So the guy says to the Rebbe, it's my aveda. I'll take that aveda. So the Rebbe said, what's the difference? In other words, this is the emes. This is the emes. This is the emes. This is the emes, and it's mamish. So Mashiach is mamish. Mashiach is mamish means Mashiach is about that it's real and it's here and it's now. And connecting to Gimel Tammuz means connecting to Mashiach, connecting to Mamash, which is also the acronym of the Rebbe's name, that it's real and it's here and it's now, and in L'chaim L'chaim, we should see Mashiach now. L'chaim L'chaim.
I'm sorry, I missed the quote on the story about the diamond in 19 years.
It's a good thing he didn't ask you. It's a good thing he didn't ask you. And Rabbi Friedman was thinking the same thing about himself when he got back in the car. It's a good thing I wasn't asked to talk to her, because this was the most amazing experience that I had in my life. It's a good thing they didn't ask me, because if they would have asked me, I would have said no. That's the of mamish. It's not about you and how you feel. What's the emes? What's reality? This is the reality. Reality is taking me on mamish. Okay. Good Shabbos, Obzev, good Shabbos, Yonatan. Shabbos of Yisuf, Shabbos of Chaim Peretz.
Thank you.